Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 22nd of January 2015. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comments. Coming up in the show, we'll be covering the Microsoft Windows 10 press conference. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Well, Microsoft's supposed recommitment to PC gaming went off with a whimper rather than a bang at the Microsoft Windows 10 press conference, which they streamed. After an hour of watching a presenter awkwardly try and flirt with Cortana and all sorts of great information about photo album aggregation, we finally got Phil Spencer on the stage to talk briefly about the Windows 10 gaming capability, which consisted of about 15 seconds of a benchmark from DirectX 12, and a couple of very odd announcements indeed. So, let's start with the good. There's not much of it, so it shouldn't take long. The good. We're going to have Fable Legends on Windows 10, and it's going to be cross-platform to Xbox One, which is fantastic. You know, anytime we get another game over from Xbox One on PC, I'm happy to see it. And Fable Legends looks pretty fun. Looks like it's taken the concept behind games like Dungeon Land and perhaps might make it a little bit better. And it's diving into the whole asymmetrical multiplayer, which I really dig at the moment, and not that many games have done particularly well yet. So I think there's a lot of development to be had there. I'm looking forward to playing it. I know it's got nothing to do with Fable, but let's be honest, since the first one, I haven't really cared much about Fable anyway, so I don't really mind. This was all done through an Xbox app, which looks to be a monstrosity of a thing, which is fairly similar to Games for Windows Live, which will allow things like being able to share clips. Yay. Being able to share friends lists. Yay. Being able to see what your other friends are doing and stalk them in their gaming habits and so on and so forth. Basically, a lot of stuff that you can kind of do on Steam already, but will give you a degree of cross-platform social interactivity, I suppose, with those that use Xbox One. Not a lot of very useful features in there, although they have also announced that Windows 10 and the app will actually give you capture functionality, which is something that already exists with a great deal of different pieces of software, some of them free. NVIDIA's Shadowplay does this and captures while you're playing, so if you're an AMD user, I suppose this might be a little bit interesting, but outside of that, this is not new technology. This is something that can be done, and frankly, sharing clips across the Xbox network doesn't really seem all that useful, although maybe I'm just speaking from the perspective of someone that doesn't give a damn about Xbox. So they moved on to say that there will be additional performance benefits from using DirectX 12, and that the Unity engine had adopted DirectX 12 as well, which is potentially a good thing, although, again, shutting OpenGL out doesn't necessarily seem like a great idea. Ultimately, I'll use whatever performs the best, and I'm glad to see competition in the form of Mantle, and I also hope that OpenGL continues to make some inroads, because if we're limited by, say, widespread adoption of DirectX when it comes to performance, then that's going to hold the PC platform back, and there's really no need for that. But we'll see. The proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. Now onto the nonsense. The biggest thing that they announced during this press conference was the ability to stream from your Xbox One to your PC. No, not the other way around. You know, the sensible thing where you use the more powerful machine to stream to the less powerful machine that is probably in the living room connected to the big television. You know, the thing that makes sense. Now, we're going to do it the other way around. You can stream from the less powerful console to the more powerful PC that probably has the smaller screen. What? I am a little flabbergasted, I've got to say. Now, if we were to look at it from a non-PC perspective, then you would say, alright, well, you can stream to your tablet and things like that. Yep, absolutely. That's sensible. I can see that. It's essentially an answer to remote play. Fine. That's all cool. But marketing it as something that will stream to your PC and say, hey, you can now play Xbox games on your PC. No, you can't. You can play Xbox games on your Xbox in a different room slower. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, we're not only dealing with inferior hardware in the first place, which is rendering, for the most part, at sub 1080p resolutions at 30 frames per second, which many PC gamers do not find acceptable, and rightfully so, since we've been used to playing at 60 FPS since the bloody Nintendo Entertainment System, but we're also dealing with the artifacting and latency of streaming to make the experience even worse. Why would you want to do that? That's not a PC gaming feature, that's an Xbox feature. That's essentially the Wii U's ability to play on the sodding controller. That's what it is. It's like my wife is using the TV, I want to play on the Xbox. I don't want to unplug the Xbox and move it to a different room so I can do streaming. That sounds useful in certain scenarios, but don't market that as a PC feature. It's not a PC feature. If anything, it's an excuse not to port any of the games that PC gamers might actually want to play on superior hardware to the actual bloody system. Like, great, I could play Halo Master Chief Collection on my monitor through my Wi-Fi with artifacting and input latency. But maybe I could use a keyboard and mouse in the process. No. I'm not going to do any of those things. Like, it's almost insulting. It's like saying to a PC gamer, well, we're going to give you the ability to buy an Xbox One, buy our $60 games on the Xbox One, and then we'll let you stream it to a monitor. How incredibly accepting of PC gaming are we? If that was supposed to impress PC gamers and convince them that, quote, we will treat gaming on Windows 10 with as much passion as Xbox, well, that was a pretty poor start to that campaign. That was you falling on your face right out of the gate on that one. Windows 10 is going to be a hard sell to people anyway. I mean, gamers are stuck on Windows 7 at the moment for the most part. Some have moved to Windows 8 and it's been fine for the most part. They had to wait a while for things to get sorted out. But when I hear things like, we're going to change alt-tabbing as if somehow alt-tabbing doesn't work properly in the first place, I get really damn terrified. Like, yeah, Windows 10 is going to have Cortana on it. No, go away, Clippy 2.0. I don't need your help and I'm not going to be seen talking to my computer. Just ignore that's part of my job, but, you know, you get the idea. The regular person is not going to be seen to be so deranged. Ah, man, what are you even doing? Like, really, PC gamers don't want much from Microsoft, honestly. They want Microsoft's games, and they want Windows to be a good gaming platform with good technology that allows for the best experience and the best use of their hardware. Now, if DirectX 12 allows that to happen, then great. That's fine. And if that's the case, I will upgrade to Windows 10, and I'm sure I'll be happy with it. But the ridiculous unwillingness to give us anything other than the tiniest little table scrap. Yeah, Fable Legends, okay, cool. Master Chief Collection? We haven't had a Halo since Halo 2, and you attached a giant caveat to that. You put an albatross around its neck called Windows Vista and demanded that we buy that, and most of us didn't, because it wasn't very good. So, what is it going to take? I think it shows the precarious nature of the Xbox, really, when they're so terrified to port their own games to their own operating system. It's like, oh, well, people might realize that the Xbox isn't as good a gaming experience as we claim. No, they've already realized. They've already cottoned on to that. It just really comes down to how honest you plan on being in the future. Well, somehow I doubt that Valve is too worried about the current announcements. We'll see whether or not Microsoft comes up with anything a little bit more compelling later down the line. Although they have announced that in some way you're going to get a free upgrade if you happen to run Windows 7 to Windows 10 for the first year after Windows 10 launches. Now, as to whether or not that gives you like a year's free of that before you then have to buy it, which I would assume is what they're going to do, rather than giving away their operating system for free to almost everybody on the planet, which doesn't seem particularly sensible. Well, it remains to be seen. But I'm okay with trying Windows 10 out, and DX12 has potential, certainly. Anything that makes my PC run faster and play games better is always welcome. It's just, unfortunately, that seems to be the only thing that we're currently going to be getting out of Microsoft when it comes to gaming. That is sad. I mean, at least they're offering some form of cross-platform play. This is something that they have not really been willing to do in the past. We did see it experimentally added to Shadowrun a long time ago, but that really is about it. So maybe they're going to give it another whack. I certainly don't mind. There's only certain games that it's really going to work for. I mean, if you gave us cross-platform in something like Halo, then, well, that's a lot of dead console gamers, let me put it that way. Yeah, something of a misfire on this conference, I'm afraid, and I think something that will continue to reinforce the idea in many people's heads that Microsoft is just criminally out of touch with PC gaming. The sad thing is they have a vested interest in continuing that status quo because they have their own box to sell things on, which makes them more money. Oh dear. There was one other thing I picked up on which is potentially concerning, which is this idea that there will be universal apps which will run across all platforms, and apparently that will work in a seamless fashion. There will be very little input required from the developer. Now, at first glance, you might think that's potentially good. You've got a lot of tablets running Windows 10, you've got this kind of family of devices running the same sort of operating system, so that should give you more choice. Well, Yes, but I'd like to point you to Steam and all of the iOS ports. Well, 95% of the iOS ports. Now, what happens when you don't put a lot of effort into a port? I think the answer to that is obvious. You end up with a terrible port, and it ends up either not running well on PC or not having the required functionality to be good on PC. It's the wrong size. It doesn't give you the ability to rebind keys. It doesn't let you change the resolution. It runs at 30 frames per second. It doesn't have proper mouse control. It still says the word touch, for God's sake. I think anything that makes cross-device play easier also comes along with the caveat that if the developer is lazy, you're just enabling that, and that's going to enable yet more terrible ports that end up being on PC without the required amount of effort actually being put into them. So I wouldn't necessarily view that as a good thing. Potentially, yes. Probably, practically, I doubt it. Alright folks, that wraps me up for the content patch. Thank you very much for watching. I just saved you 2 hours of your life watching the Windows conference. I hope that you're very grateful for that. And before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. Mega Man X had some good music, everybody knows that. What about if we remixed it into some cheesy electro rock by Heaven Wraith? Yes, that sounds like a good idea. This is a remix of the Boomer Guanga and Metal Man stage. Hopefully you enjoy it. You can download it for free in the description below this video, and I'll see you next time.